everyone. Welcome back to the Bank Customer Experience Podcast. My name is Bradley Cooper. I'm the host of this podcast. And today I'm joined by Joey Parrillo and Cody Anderson from Cook Solutions Group. And we're talking today about next gen cameras and how they are changing the game with ATMs, kiosks, and bank branches. So, Joey and Cody, great to have you on today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So I want to jump right into it and get talking about camera technology. So obviously it's pretty common for banks to have cameras to protect both their customers and for ATMs in the branch. But what do you see as some of the recurring issues with past camera technology?
Yeah, so I'll jump in and kind of touch on this a little bit. Cody, you can jump in after me. But so from what we've seen, obviously technology has come a long way in the past 5 years, 10 years,
Right.
even the last 2 years, right? So as technology evolves, so do cameras. I mean, we've moved from an analog to a digital signal, from 720p as a standard resolution to now 4K, 8K cameras are now the standard resolution. So image quality, uh, bulky hardware, form factor, storage. I mean, those are all things that have evolved as time has come through as well. So, keeping that in mind, understanding the need. I mean, you used to have box cameras as the standard. Now you can go to mini domes, you can go to mini ATM cameras. So there's a lot of things that have changed and evolved as time has come as well.
Right. Cody?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in advances of how your data is being stored. So originally MJPEG, H.264, now H.265. So utilizing these new codecs to compress the video just offers a lot more flexibility in your storage ability and how much data you can store there on site.
Right. Yeah, I think that adds a lot of important context around just being able to store data and, of course, the advances from analog to digital. So, one thing we hear about is analytics. So, we hear about companies use analytics for all sorts of different issues and solutions. But why are smart cameras with built in analytics so important to securing those ATMs or kiosks or bank branches, in your opinion?
Cody, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So the smart cameras themselves are really ideal for these kind of kiosk locations, primarily because of the lack of the being the onboard, the analytics are on board on the camera themselves. Does eliminates the need for an NVR or a high processing GPU, things along those lines. So being able to again hit that form factor of some of these offsite locations with maybe a cellular connection, limited resources as far as where you're going to house the equipment as well. So having those analytics on board just in the form factor scenario and being able to hit these smaller kind of offsite branch sites and kiosks is really beneficial.
Yeah, in addition to that, I mean, just how far analytics have come in the last year, let alone 5 years, right? I mean, in the past, analytics, it was simply, hey, motion on a camera. That's analytics, right? And now we're able to distinguish people versus animals versus vehicles versus objects. So those are all things that we can do in today on a camera. But better yet, these cameras are continually learning, right? You have the ability to upload imagery into it. False reports, right? Yeah, AIs are 99.9% accurate, but there's still going to be those FPs or false positives where having the ability to false report directly in that instance or in that video management system allows that camera to continually learn and process new information and grow those algorithms and that data set to evolve to where we are today and continue to evolve. So it's great.
Sure. And Joey, if you wouldn't mind kind of expand that a little bit, in what ways does that analytics really help resolving those theft issues or really helping out law enforcement in those investigations when someone has a located
Absolutely.
them or something?
So, Brad, to your point, analytics, as I mentioned earlier, kind of started with emotion, right? Hey, okay, there's motion detected. And then it went to intrusion. So you'd set an area and it would be motion inside of that particular area, right? And the issue with that is that, I mean, it could be a balloon being dragged through a certain
Sure.
area, a dog running, a leaf falling in an area, a shadow. And so evolving to the, the 21st century today, 2025, right, is where we're at.
Mhm.
We're now
Right.
able to distinguish people in an area during an amount of time. So, hey, I wanted to alert only from the hours of 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. And I want it to
Mhm.
be a person, not an object, not a vehicle, not a dog, not a cat, but a person that's in this area for longer than 2 minutes. So you're
Mhm.
able to tie multiple events or scenarios into a corresponding event. And then you're also able to trigger an output. So that output could
Right.
be turn on the sprinklers, uh, do a fire, a siren, do a strobe, a
Mhm.
make an audible alert. Hey, text my cell phone. No, I want you to call this number. No, I want you to send an email. So having that ability to distinguish or get very granular with your rules and your rules engine allows
Mhm.
you to kind of evolve your technology as well. So
Right.
it's
Yeah, I think it's important to touch on that, Joey, as far as the integrations to IoT devices. Oh, I think I kind of froze there. Sorry. But the integration into IoT devices. So again, utilizing those analytics of like inside of an ATM vestibule, a loitering analytic that a person is detected for greater than 60 seconds. Does that trigger an audible device that says you are in a restricted area? Help combat transient issues, things along those lines. So when you tie that to an IoT device too, it really widens the ability of that system there to audible devices, audio and video, things along those lines. So integrating with IoT devices is really important as well.
Yeah, that's a really great point of that integration. So, I want to talk a little bit about, do these new cameras require a DVR or NVR anymore? And what are the benefits to having a more serverless camera system versus one on a server?
yeah, Cody, do you want to touch on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier as far as just space constraints. But one thing that's kind of nice is with the new serverless cameras, or what we call edge cameras, is having the ability to have that camera record locally and touch and speak out to the internet there. So what we are able to do with a 2 terabyte hard SD card on these cameras is still hit our 90-day retention requirements that most of our cameras customers require. But again, this there's a little bit of cost savings associated to it, as well as just the form factor. So, not to mention, there are redundancy built into a lot of these cameras with failover along those lines as well. So, if a single camera, if that NVR does go down, obviously all your cameras are going to stop recording. When the software is embedded on the camera and is recording locally, any one camera goes down, or there is the option for an NVR to go down to then affect all those cameras. They are just recording locally.
I can
Yeah.
jump in. So for any of you out there that aren't familiar with the old infrastructure, or some people still use it. So you'd have a storage device, an NVR, a NAS, a SAN, something locally that all of these cameras had to feed all of that data back to, right?
Hmm.
What we saw is that in some instances, this was creating a area of interest for perps, right? They'd come in,
Hmm.
they'd pull that NVR, and then all of your data is gone with that NVR, right? Unless
Right.
you're storing it to the cloud. If it's stored locally on an NVR, they come in, they pull it, it's gone. Or maybe you don't have RAID, you don't have any redundancy on site. You have a single hard drive, right? That all of these cameras are writing to. That single hard drive is corrupt, right? Or
Right.
it fails, then you don't have any of that storage on site anymore. Where to Cody's point, where these cameras are now storing on the device themselves. If a perp comes in, they're looking for an NVR. They're looking for something to pull off so they can rip it. I mean, we've all seen those movies where they come in and they're stealing that hardware, right? It's a
Yep.
lot
Yep.
harder to pull a camera off of a mounted ceiling, a mounted wall, wherever it's mounted. And so they're going in. Maybe they pull that switch, right? And they're like, "Oh, this is where all that storage is, and this is where all that data is." Nope. Guess what? You plug in a new switch, that camera still has all that data directly on it. So,
Mm.
I mean, so again, it's having those extra layers of redundancy, those extra layers of protection. We have a
Sure.
couple customers that strategically place these edge cameras throughout their branch, but they still have an NVR. So in the
Hmm.
case of maybe a perp coming in, pulling data or stealing something, knowing where that NVR is, guess what? I still have those cameras that are strategically placed that are in their high traffic areas, or maybe the most secure areas where you want to protect your data the most. They have that built-in redundancy on the camera as
Sure.
well as the MVR that allows them the visibility, even if that MVR was taken. So.
Yeah. All very good points. Very important to have redundancy to, protect against bad actors who are going to try anything they can. So, obviously, the $1 million question is, banks might say, well, yes, these new cameras sound great, but are they expensive? How are these new cameras expensive? How would you answer that question, Joey and Cody?
So I'll start, Cody, and then you can follow up. So cameras, as we all know, the cost of cameras have drastically come down throughout the years,
Hmm.
right? And
Sure.
if we're comparing apples to apples, a camera to a DVR, a camera is much less expensive than a DVR, right? DVRs can be
Hmm.
5,000, 6,000, depends on how much storage you need. These are all like strategically played um, pieces of a puzzle. But with these cameras, there's definitely a cost savings when you're looking at it apples to apples to
Hmm.
an NVR. Is it going to be more expensive than your basic camera out there? Yes, you have onboard
Hmm.
storage. You're paying for onboard storage, but it's a 4K camera. The quality is going to be very, very appetizing to those that are coming
Sure.
from a 2 megapixel, a 5 megapixel, a 720p. There's a lot of benefits there. In agreeing to that, the cost savings that you're getting from server management, right? There's no
Hmm.
more Windows patches. There's no more um, all of those entities that you're paying for that managed service for people to update and keep your server maintained and all of those different licenses that you have to have for that server, those all
Right.
go away with an edge based camera.
Right. Cody, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I honestly just that as to Joey's point, less devices to manage. Not only that, it
Hmm.
might be minuscule numbers, but even stuff as power draw. If you have a site with 60 cameras, you have multiple servers on site. That's going to be continued power draw. What are you going to be required for a UPS to back that up? Things along those lines. So there's going to be an infrastructure point to that as well. But
Sure.
again, with just doing that on the camera, it's going to be a lower load on the infrastructure that you're going to be needing to power those cameras, and then again, just the flexibility. Maybe you have an offsite kiosk that you want to add a camera to, but you don't have a place for a server. Instead of having to add a secondary cabinet or an outdoor enclosure in order to house that equipment, you then have the ability to have that software and storage embedded on the camera itself.
Right. All great points. And I want to give both of you the opportunity to talk a little bit about what sort of cameras does Cook Solutions Group offer? What are some of the unique features if you'd like to talk about that for a little bit?
How do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to sit down with the customer and talk about what they're trying to accomplish with these customers
Hmm.
and discuss their
Sure.
environment. Every environment's going to be slightly different, whether, a 4K or an 8 megapixel camera sounds fantastic, but is it always required? We don't want to oversell. What we really want to do is sit down with the customer, really get discuss their pain points and how we can address those and come up with the best solution. So the highest quality as far as resolution isn't necessarily always the best solution camera, but again, we're trying to figure out the perfect scenario for that customer environment itself. And Joey, I didn't know if you wanted to expand on that at all.
Yeah, I mean, to Cody's point, there's so many cameras out there, right, Brad? Right, right,
Hmm.
listeners. So there's not a one size fits all. Yes, there's many cameras that have broad spectrums that they will fit that particular application, but there are very unique cameras as well. License plate recognition cameras,
Right.
PTZ cameras, right? Multi lens cameras. There's 360 cameras, there's dome cameras, there's ATM cameras, there's all of these different unique varieties out there. And yes, we can offer every single camera to the market. We have major we have partners in all of the different camera manufacturer
Sure.
markets. So to Cody's point, we're going to sit down and we're going to help walk through the FI, walk through the institution to make sure that the need meets the end requirement, right? Hey, I don't want
Yeah.
to sell you an LPR camera for an indoor application. That doesn't make sense. I don't want to put a 360 camera inside of a vault. Doesn't make sense. I mean, so
Hmm.
again, having those site walks, having those unique conversations with the customer, the end user, making sure they understand the application, making sure we understand the use case is
Sure.
is kind of uh, applicable. But as far as our edge-based cameras, we offer a height strip, we offer a dome, we offer a 360, and we offer an ATM camera. And again, that's
Hmm.
kind of any of those cameras, all of those cameras in unison kind of can outfit an entire FI holistically, right?
Hmm.
If you have those use cases outside of those, again, we have cameras that fit that niche. But again, this is kind of those specific to an FI that will fulfill a complete branch reformation.
Sure. And lastly, I wanted to just discuss a little bit. Do your cameras integrate AI in any sort of way yet? We mentioned it a tiny bit at the beginning, but I wanted to see if that was something you supported in any way.
Yeah, so every one of the cameras that we deploy, any of our Pico cameras, our Pico Edge cameras do have built-in analytics. And
Hmm.
those analytics are, again, there's a gamut of them, but I'll hit high level kind of what you can
Sure.
expect with these cameras. You have loitering, you have object detection, you have entering, exiting, you have intrusion, you have object left behind, you have object guarded. So again, object left behind it, maybe somebody left a backpack, a briefcase,
Hmm.
it can alert you. Object guarded, maybe you have a prized uh, again, we've used this for like museums or schools or something like that, where maybe you have a trophy case that you want to protect. Okay, there's that. Or FI, maybe you have a, let's call it a TCR. Maybe
Hmm.
you have something on a desk, right? One of your bill counters, and it can be easily removed, and you want to be
Hmm.
notified anytime it gets removed. Again, that's kind of where the object guarded would take place. Line crossing. We're seeing more and more people using line crossing for analytical purposes, meaning statistical purposes. So
Hmm.
you have people coming into your branches, but maybe they're not going to Teller Row. Maybe they're going different avenues. Maybe they're going to loan officers, and you want to understand how many people are coming into your branches because right now all you get is the data directly corresponded with transactional data. You don't get
Right.
any other data, so you want to know transaction or foot traffic. So there's that. There's crowding. We've seen that. Cody, you can touch on crowding and kind of some of the other analytics too, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. So crowding and queuing, and also what Joey was talking about as far as, where people are coming into your bank branch, we can do heat mapping as well. If it comes in
Right.
and maybe it's a physical layout issue or where you have your marketing stands, things set up within your branch, but you can see where people are moving within your branch with that heat mapping. Crowding, same thing with the queuing. If you determine that, hey, we have one teller on Teller Row right now, we need to get somebody else out there. Maybe they need to stop what they're doing in the back and get out and assist. Things along those lines. So that's where the queuing and the line crossing queuing and crowding will come into play there. So that, again, trying to focus towards the customer experience is the primary goal. There is how they come into the branch, where they're being funneled, and how long they're being there without being helped out.
Sure. So I really appreciate all this information. This is some really great stuff. I want to give you an opportunity, Joey and Cody. Is there anything we didn't talk about today that you'd like to highlight for our listeners?
Cody?
I think that's good for me. Again, just I would just strongly recommend stop speaking with your representative or your account manager. Again, these are the type of scenarios that we like to have conversation with the customer as far as what you're trying to accomplish, the pain points of your experience, and what we can do to help alleviate those.
Excellent. And is there a best way for them to contact you, to get in touch with you about this?
Yeah, so visiting us at our website, there's a contact us form. So www.cooksolutionsgroup.com. Contact us there directly would be the best means to get in contact with us.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Joey and Cody. This was a fascinating conversation. Really appreciate having you guys on.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you to all our listeners. We'll be back later. Take care.